the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
How you feeling?
Better.
Yeah.
I still have residuals, but I'm not sick anymore. It was terrible. I was sick for like a solid week, and I'm never sick that long.
Really? Yeah. I don't normally get sick, but when I do, I do it in high fashion. And I try to take the rest of the family down with me. Because
they took me down.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was the last one standing.
You're like, ha ha. And then you wake up and you're like, shh. I'd start banging out the vitamin C. You know, Dad, that's a placebo. Our teacher told us that doesn't really work. I don't care. It works for me. If it's a placebo and I believe it works, and then my tickle throat goes away. So once you know it, this kid now was not feeling well last week and immediately was like, where's your emergency, Dad? Where's that? And I'm like,
you mean the placebo?
Yeah, correct.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. Thank you.
We were gone for a couple of weeks, so maybe somebody got worried out there. I don't know because nobody told us. But
I was worried. I'm like, I don't know. It's been so long. I forgot what we were even covering.
Yeah, no, this one was my fault. I got very sick.
It's not your fault per se. This is life in general.
Oh, and if ever we were gonna push off a movie,
I wonder what they're gonna say about Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Actually, somebody just asked me. Oh, I know what it was. It was my father. They must have just watched the first one, Afterlife.
You know, I would have liked to have seen that, but it was not on any of my streaming services where I could just pull it up.
Well, this is what they do. You know, it's like, the new Ghostbusters movie coming out, so let's pull the other one, and you have to pay $3.99 to watch it.
Yeah, and I was not about to do that. I'm like, I barely remember this as it is, and I'm just gonna. That's the way it's gonna be. Yeah,
that is so funny you say that, because there's a scene in this movie where Paul Rudd's character says, and then there was that time when we turned into demon dogs, and I'm like, I guess that happened in the other movie. I don't even remember. Yeah, no, it's crazy because I think we liked it. Whether I enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, it didn't stick.
No, it didn't.
Because I'm like, outside of the characters, first of all, Paul Rudd is no Gary. He does not look like a Gary. There's no way in the world that I would call him a Gary. It's a weird name for his character.
And I don't remember him being in the first one all that much. He shows up and then he's gone for...
I think he's like the legacy characters, which he just kind of like, he's there. He's the mom's boyfriend, but it really did center on those kids. And even in this one, I'm going to say right now, Finn Wolfhard has nothing to do. They had to give him like a side story chasing Slimer.
Well, before we get into this, we're already full on into our Ghostbusters discussion. We've been gone for longer than we would have liked to be.
Yes.
Do we have any news?
We have tons of news. I do want to just say, anybody who's out there and does listen, and maybe you're on Apple iPod or any of these other podcast streaming services, we also have a YouTube page, and I've been upgrading the little thumbnails. I've been tying in the graphics with our Instagram account, which I don't think any of our listeners actually follow us on Instagram. But if you go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com, we have all of our links. Or if you sit through the whole episode, we do lay it out, but I don't remember if we actually include YouTube on there. So anyways, YouTube seems to be the new thing. All these podcasts are going to YouTube. We do have YouTube. It is not a visual. It is just audio. But if you go there, just subscribe. Just please subscribe. You don't even have to listen to us through YouTube. But that seems to be the new algorithm right now. So it would help us. It would get us out to more people. We do have 314 episodes. And yet no one seems to know that we exist. So go check it out. Go tell a friend.
I don't think we would want. I think that we would be unpleasantly surprised if suddenly people paid attention. So maybe it's best this way.
We're just screaming into the void to the three people that listen to us. That's fine. Well, to those three people, thank you.
Yes,
that is what I'm going to say. You want to get into some news? Let's go news.
Okay.
I just heard that Louis Gossett Jr. died, and I really thought maybe he was already dead.
I thought when I saw that pop up, it was just an older feed and maybe it was his birthday or something.
No, he passed away. Are we ever going to cover Iron Eagle? Probably not.
If only to hear that Queen song.
Oh, that's true.
One Vision.
My gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's a flash.
I saw Iron Eagle in the theater.
I want to say I saw it in the theater as well. There's a whole episode of Family Guy where Brian writes a book, and it's basically the exact storyline of Iron Eagle. Enemy Mine, though, we should definitely keep in the back pocket at some point, because I do remember enjoying that. He plays the alien.
Yes,
him and
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid crashed on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, probably the only movie where Lou Gossett Jr. Gets pregnant is my guess. If I had to, and since it has been so long, I do want to just give a shout out to Godzilla -1 for winning an Oscar.
If only for the fact to hear Arnold Schwarzenegger say Godzilla. Godzilla. Godzilla.
Yeah. Well, excuse me? Bless you. Yeah. That was actually a fun moment with him and Danny DeVito. So, I mean, it beat out The Creator, which is pretty damn impressive. Because a lot of that stuff, I mean, he filmed, Edwards filmed that in camera, and then they went back and enhanced a lot of that stuff. So, but yeah, Godzilla -1, still not out on disc though.
In Japan, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait. I wonder if they'll release both versions of black and white and the color.
They have to. I was looking at what's on the Japan disc, and they're both versions.
Oh, they okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a friend who rumored to be going to Japan.
Well,
probably a region 4 that won't.
Well,
play
that, and they usually don't have the English.
I can deal with that.
Not even the subtitles. That's what I'm saying. So
I probably would still watch it. So check this out. I don't know. First of all, did you know that Fangoria is still a thing?
Yes, just because I see it. I see it on it's not a magazine anymore. It's not a physical magazine.
Well, because I came across this headline and it was on Fangoria website, and I'm like, I didn't even know that they had a website.
I didn't have a subscription to it, but I picked up my copy every month at the drugstore.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been eyeing up every now and again the Godzilla. I think it's issue number 1.
Yeah, I used to. I sold it stupidly. Yeah. But I used to have it. But that Fangoria magazine was how I knew about all these horror movies that never played around here. I just read about them.
Yeah.
And now they show up on Tubi. I'm like, I remember reading about that in Fangoria. I'm going to watch it 50 years later.
Yep. I'll tell you right now, one of the ones, and I think it was at the Motel Hell with the famous cover of the guy with the pig head and a chainsaw. I'm like, yeah, I want nothing to do with this because it was too, like, I like my monsters or whatever. It was because a lot of the time, they would interview like these guys who did the special effects and stuff. And it was all a little too real for me.
And they'd all have the gory in color photos, but Motel Hell is it's a comedy. It's not,
is it?
I wouldn't go that far, but it's like very tongue in cheek. It's not like a straight horror movie at all.
I'm going to guess it's funnier than Frozen Empire.
It probably is.
I don't think I laughed once in this.
No.
Oh, okay. We'll get into this. So anyways, Fangoria, they've announced Halloween. They're making a Halloween TV show. And this was like a heated bidding war with A24, who's a famous studio now. Miramax apparently acquired the rights. And the founder of Miramax, this guy, Mark Helwig, is saying that the foundation of this TV show is going back to the original film, the original John Carpenter movie, with the characters and perhaps a group of characters that we haven't really focused on that much in recent film versions or even in a number of them. So it's a creative reset, but it's going back to the original film. And I'm like, so every week he just kills somebody else? Like,
Well, this is, what we were saying with when the last trilogy started. Like every few years, they're just going to do this all over again.
Yeah,
Like
and
discount everything and now
Yep.
just go back to the original. But this is even faster than I would have anticipated for them to do this.
Right. Yeah, well, I think they want to just wash that the bad taste of that last trilogy out of everyone's mouth. So, but I mean, think about Chucky's got that show on what is it? Is it
USA
Sci-Fi?
Network,
USA?
Sci-Fi? I don't know.
So Chucky, and then Jason is getting his own prequel series called Crystal Lake, which is produced by A24, and it's going to be on Peacock. I don't know. I guess you're going to make me more interested in the kids that get killed eventually. Who's going to die next? It boggles me. I don't know. That is in the works, and we are getting a Halloween TV show, and I will not be watching.
I've seen the new Alien trailer. Have you seen this? Alien Romulus?
I did. It does look like it's going right back to the original roots, a little more horror.
Yeah, speaking of, a creative reset. Although this is in canon. It's not like they're starting from scratch. So I think it takes place a few years before Aliens, so it's in between Alien and Aliens. So Ripley is still out floating in space when this takes place.
Somebody else encounters the xenomorph,
and it sounded like it was going to be on the same planet as Cameron's Settlers are on. I don't.
Okay,
I'm not too sure.
So it's just a rehash. It just people doing stupid stuff and getting killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
interesting.
That's basically what you do in an Alien movie.
If you can give me one or two jump scares, maybe I'm in. But yeah, that's another franchise that's been diluted to the point where it's not even fun anymore. Stick to the original two. And finally, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It might have been the last episode for all I remember, where Henry Cavill has been given this top secret role in the MCU. And we were speculating maybe it was Dr. Doom. I guess I was speculating it would have been cool. Rumors are now that he is the MCU Wolverine. I don't know. I guess Hugh Jackman is the standard. But if you read X-Men as a kid, the whole point of Wolverine was that he was like this runt, this kind of like, this pipsqueak guy that, it was like 5'2". You thought you could take him out because he just looked like, unassuming or whatever. And then he'll just tear your throat out with a snick. So I think Henry Cavill, he's another 6-footer right up there with Hugh Jackman. I don't know.
I was reading that people were thinking he was Captain Britain. I'm like, that's a little too on the nose. Like, because he's got an accent.
It's true. Who can we guess who has a British accent?
Who does absolutely no one care about? Captain Britain.
You didn't like Captain Britain? He was in Excalibur.
I was only ever read about him when he showed up in Marvel Team Up, and that's it. I'm like, who's this guy? Yeah.
Yeah. He's a Captain America ripoff. I don't even remember what his powers were other than being strong. I don't think he had powers.
He could throw off the Union Jack just like Superman could at the end of Superman 2. No, I don't know.
You. I'm sure that showed up in one episode. Yeah. So that's pretty much all the news I want to talk about. I'm sure there's plenty more of that happened, but that's all we're going to deal with. Do we want to go?
Ghostbusters.
Can I just say right off the bat, this was probably hands down the worst theater experience I have had in years.
Because of the people?
Because of the people. Yeah, it was jam-packed. I went opening weekend, almost got the missus to go with me. And then she's like, is it opening night? I'm like, no, it opened Thursday, but it's Saturday. But it's first showing on Saturday. The thing was, it was pouring rain. So it was a crappy day to begin with. And so I think a lot of people just said, well, just go to the movies. There's a homeless guy in front of us that was just grunting and groaning and making noises. At one point, a girl came in and sat next to him, and then all of a sudden she disappeared. And we thought maybe she was in his lap. We couldn't quite figure out. There was a dad next to me, and he had kids behind him. And the kids were talking throughout the entire movie. And I can deal with that. They're kids. They're 9-year-olds or whatever. They were into the movie, but they were talking to each other at the same time. It was the dad who turned around every 2 seconds going, James. And he would pick up his phone and put it to his ear like every 3 seconds, and it would light up. And finally, there was only one seat separating us. And I finally just turned and I said, dude, you got to stop it with the phone. And then he put it down. But I was waiting for him outside in the parking lot to shank me, but that didn't happen. Yeah, it's.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, people think that they're sitting in their living room.
I had a very apathetic audience comparatively.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. No, neither did I.
All right. What's our backup feature?
Backup feature, Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us, which is actually, I thought it was a really good parody. Dan Aykroyd. Yeah. Boy, he can spout mumbo jumbo with the best of them.
He can.
Both of these movies, he is just
with the straight
jargon.
Face. Yeah, like it's a second language to him.
Yes. Yeah. So, and also I toyed by saying last episode that I had a story about John Landis, and come to find out, I realized Gil Keenan directed this. I have a story about him as well.
Directed Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So in 2006, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but I think his directorial debut was Monster House, which is a animated.
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay.
Yep.
So I took my daughter and my nephew to an advanced screening at Jacob Burns Film Center in Pleasantville. And they did a screening with the director and two of the kid actors. And then afterwards they did a Q&A, and Skylar actually has a poster signed by all three of them, including this director, Gil Keenan. Yeah, I have that story.
I was more interested during that than the entire movie of Ghostbusters.
What's that, Monster House?
No, of your story.
Oh,
So this begins with a Robert Frost poem. I'm like,
which is weird.
If you're going to show me more than 3 lines, I'm sorry, you've lost me already.
Yeah, no, it's tough to read. You're right. Let alone a Robert Frost poem.
It opens up to that 1904 flashback. I was expecting to see Sean Connery in here at the
the
Society of Gentlemen, or whatever. So the NYPD break into this this highfalutin society meeting, and the entire room that they break into has been frozen. There's your prologue, so you know that this little orb that this warrior is holding is going to figure in later on, and it certainly does. But fast forward to now, and we get the Ghostbusters in the Ghostbusting car, ripping down the streets of Manhattan, which you have seen in the trailer a million times.
Yes.
And they are chasing the Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon. Okay, Ghostbusters are up and running again. They're located back in the same firehouse as they always were.
End credit of Afterlife that Ernie Hudson's character, Winston Zedmore, reacquired the firehouse.
Yep. So, and he must be bankrolling them because he's a rich guy in this movie.
Well, someone has to pay for that vanity plate on Ecto 1. So you've been paying $50 every couple of years just to keep that on the car since 1989.
But here's the problem with this movie, and it sets it up right away. The problem is that the Ghostbusters are now the family, including Paul Rudd, who's not the dad. He's just the boyfriend.
And he spends the entire movie. Am I the dad or am I not the dad?
Yeah.
Do I have authority to
well, are you married? Yes or no? Then there's your question.
That was a good question, because I didn't see a ring, but yeah, he was a little too mamby-pamby for me. Just put your big boy panties on.
But at the same time, he's the only one that had any funny lines or material.
I do like McKenna Grace, who, if you see her out of this movie, she looks completely different. I feel they really go out of their way to kind of make her like this kind of wallflower. Like, to me, I was equating Phoebe to Winona Ryder's character in Beetlejuice.
Well, they try to make her look like a bit like Harold Ramis with the glasses.
Yes, and the kind of wacky hair, which there's a lot of stuff going on here that was reminiscent of the real Ghostbusters, which was the animated cartoon, because you got Janine in uniform. Slimer's now living in the firehouse. It's more like a family dynamic where they all just kind of live there. Oh, we do get what's his name? Atherton.
William Atherton.
Atherton, who was Peck in the original, and now he's mayor.
And he hates the Ghostbusters just as much as he did in 1984.
Why is that firehouse still sitting around 40 years later?
Yeah.
There's no way that property like that in Manhattan is going to sit abandoned.
The part of the problem with the previous Afterlife is that the legacy characters just kind of get thrown in at the end.
Yeah.
And we were saying they can't do that again with this one. You know, that's because throughout Afterlife, you're waiting for these guys to show up. And you're just teased it with just that like little climactic moment. It's there's even less of them in this movie.
You think so?
And when I say less of them, we all know who I'm talking about. We all know.
Yes, I think Bill Murray showed up on set and probably filmed his scenes in a day and a half.
Yeah. Because there's no explanation as to how is he still tied with the Ghostbusters. He just comes and goes when he pleases.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go back to Dan Aykroyd, because I think that he is, and maybe this is just me as an older gentleman now. Like, I don't necessarily connect with the kids and, I just want to be an adult and grown up and being a grown up sucks. But Dan Aykroyd, I thought, was the heart and soul of this movie. I loved his character. And again, they bring him in just so he can, spout exposition about what this thing is. And, it's to get the ball from point A to point B. But I did like him. I liked him in here, and I was happy to see him.
Well, I was happy to see him, but he's got nobody to play off of. That was how great he and Murray were playing off each other.
No, he's got the kids who, they're just sitting there reacting to what he's telling them. They're not. There's a lot of leaning into the original, like the opening sequence. There's like a news program, an article, and they not only show you scenes from Ghostbusters 2, but they're actually showing you real commercials of products from Ghostbusters and parts of the Ray Parker Jr. video. And I thought that was kind of fun. It was like, all right, you're going to catch us up on the history. You're embracing all that.
In this canon, in this universe, Ray Parker Jr. did have a hit.
Yeah,
with this song.
And these Ghostbusters were so popular, they made cereal, they made toys, which is kind of neat. But again, it's like, why would that firehouse be sitting there abandoned? If they were so beloved, it would have been a museum by now. The containment field is still sitting in there with ghosts in it.
Yeah,
all these years later.
I didn't really care. I wanted the movie to be over. I was bored. I was bored like 15 minutes into it.
There's a lot of blah, blah, blah family drama. And the bad guy, whatever, Garaka is very uninteresting.
Yeah, he was like the bad guy. I forget even his name from Justice League with the horns. I'm like, Is this the same guy?
Yeah, no, you didn't care, and you didn't see him, and he was vanquished way too easy.
But the great thing about the original is that it was funny. It was a comedy.
It was a comedy, and this is not. It is not funny. There's a lot of fun moments. Like, it's like, oh, we're going back to the public library. I wonder if we're going to see the librarian ghost. Oh, there she is. Oh, we're going to go back to the firehouse. I wonder if they're going to use the fire pole. Oh, there's Slimer again. I wonder if he's going to slime somebody. There's like all these little callbacks to the original, but you're right. They're just kind of like haberdashed in, and there's no cohesive. You don't care about the characters. This Phoebe befriends a ghosts. And I thought that was Anya Joy Taylor. I didn't know who that girl was. We saw this girl. She was Snake by Andy in Dr. Sleep.
But why is Phoebe, a 15-year-old girl, walking by herself in the middle of the night in Manhattan?
Because she's depressed. I mean, she was bored. I mean, basically, she's committing suicide.
Nobody cares that she's gone?
No, she's a mopey angst Gen Alpha or whatever you want to call them now. Because she can't be a Ghostbuster. Friggin' Mayor Peck says she's underage and that she shouldn't be doing this. So then the parents are like, all right, well, I guess you're going to have to stay behind. But she befriends this ghost, and this ghost is playing the long game by Garaka needs this girl to somehow vacate her body.
Yeah, again,
like, why not just use that ghost girl?
For some reason, they need Phoebe to say the words at the again. I was past caring.
And you find so Kumail Nanjiani. He's playing this character, Nadim, who somehow acquires this orb that was his aunt's or his grandmother's. And he pawns it off. He sells it to Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd immediately knows that it's something weird going on with it. But they realized that it was being kept in this chamber in grandma's basement, surrounded by copper. Just put it back. This movie would have been over in 2 minutes. I'm getting a bad feeling about this thing. All right, let's put it back where you found it, dude. Keep my $100. Just put it back.
And even with him in it, Kumail Nanjiani, they succeed in making him irritating and not funny.
Because he's playing this so broad. He was channeling that Peter McNichol character from Ghostbusters 2. He's playing it so broad that it comes across as annoying because no one else is reaching his level of energy. Like, he's so off the charts with this. And it's just like, all right, dude, take it down a notch.
Plus, I think talking about him taking it down a notch, I'm like, stop with the superhero physique, because they put him in a big baggy shirt. I know that he got all jacked for Eternals, but apparently he hasn't lost that. So in order for there to be some kind of, so you don't get out of the movie, they have to put him in a huge shirt, which is distracting in itself. I'm like, the reason he's wearing that thing is because he's still jacked.
Just to hide his jackedness. So yeah, there's a lot that does not work.
Yeah, I was happy when it was over, and I left before. I was like, I don't care if there's a scene at the end of the credits. I'm leaving. I'm out.
And the scene at the end makes no sense. So we do get the carryover of the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men from the first movie, but they're just there to be like gremlins. They don't do anything. They don't advance the plot. They're never explained why they're still there.
Did they even explain why they were there in the first movie? I don't remember.
I think that they were manifestations because Gozer came back.
Oh yeah.
And I only remember that because I had to look up what happened in the first movie. But yeah, so they're animated, but they're supposed to be comic relief, and they're frying each other and flattening each other and sticking their arms in pencil sharpeners that any kid nowadays wouldn't even know what that pencil sharpener was. Yeah, it's cartoon antics that don't really. Yeah, like you said, it's so full of this family, and you just want to see them busting some ghosts, and you get caught up in this whole teen angst family.
And of course, just like in the first one, the containment unit goes screwy, and all the ghosts come out, and they've got to deal with that now. And then Murray shows up, token appearance, like for 2 minutes halfway through the movie, and then he just shows up at the very end.
He's like, "Oh, I guess I'm supposed to be here." Yeah, we gave you a paycheck. Show up.
Yeah,
and even Janine, even Annie Potts. I mean, she doesn't really have much to do other than show up.
It just was bizarre. It didn't seem like there was there was no point to it of even making it.
Winston has created kind of like this Ghostbusters command somewhere in Staten Island with this other group that are collecting artifacts or trying to.
Yeah, it was like an underground laboratory.
Yeah, and that kid from the first one podcast, he's now working for them. And we get Celeste O'Connor, who we just saw in Madam Web. She was playing a character, Lucky, and then there was this other guy, Lars, but they were completely.
Speaking of Madam Web, I like that exponentially more than I like this.
Oh, wow. Are you sure you're just not cranky still? Yeah.
No. Once we talk about the second movie, my ill will have dissipated.
Fair enough.
Just like the memory of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
There you go. I will say this at the end when, once again, they miraculously save the city and then everyone's all of a sudden in front of the firehouse cheering for them. Somebody in the crowd, because the mayor's there and he's ready to shut them down. And then they're like, Ghostbusters, and then he has to like kind of praise them in order to save face. Yep. Somebody in the crowd yells,
Yes, I heard that.
And that to me was the best.
And that was like too little, too late.
Right. Because how did people hear about that?
And they didn't even really have any repartee between Murray and that guy. And that was gold in the first one.
Missed opportunity. Because Atherton always plays a jerk. He played an idiot in friggin' Die Hard. He played an idiot in the original Ghostbusters. But boy, he's looking rough there. And we get Patton Oswalt. At one point, Dan Aykroyd's like, there's only one person that we can go to that's going to help us with this. And you're like, are you going to go find Bill Murray? No, you go Patton Oswalt. But no.
But not funny, not memorable, bored. So my buckets are going to be.
Yeah, we've got this Tinkerbell like ghost, the reanimator or whatever the hell it was, and it brings the one of the lions to life. That's one of my fun.
The possessor. That's what.
The possessor. Called. That's what it was. Yeah. See, you actually paid more attention than I did. So it animates the lion, and they actually, one of my fun facts I always like to, when I take my family into Manhattan, is that those lions have names. You have patience and fortitude. So it becomes animated, attacks. Phoebe destroys it. And then later in the movie, it's intact again.
It's there. Yeah.
It's there. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. You stick it back together with all those little marshmallow guys, maybe? Yeah, you're right. I will say I probably liked it better than you. It's not great by any means, but I was entertained. I really, really liked Dan Aykroyd in this.
Yeah, I didn't think that they gave him enough. I don't think
they never do, but he got more to do than the last movie, which is, basically just the three of them just show up at the end. And
the only fun part for me was when Paul Rudd was repeating the lyrics of the Ray Parker Jr. song.
Yes, no, that actually got a lot of laughs. Yeah, when he had his fight with his wife / girlfriend.
When he's trying to justify the existence of the Ghostbusters, and he keeps asking her, "Who are you going to call?"
Right? Yeah. Really, we're going here, Gary. Yeah. No, I don't think Paul Rudd can do any harm.
No,
he's always charming. He's a charming young man. He owns a little candy shop up in Rhinebeck.
Yeah, he's. I've never been there, but it's very close to us. Yeah, I'm sure he won't welcome us with open arms after this.
I think he knows it's a stinker as well. I think listen, some of these guys don't care. That's a paycheck. He did his best. Let's put it that way. He's not the problem with this movie. Closest I ever got to him, he was in attendance at the Weird Al concert in Poughkeepsie.
Well, I saw him on the street in New Paltz. He was
Get out of here.
He was 2 feet away from me.
Really?
Yeah, with his family.
Very cool. Okay.
All right. So what kind of buckets would we do?
Oh, you are very low. I'm gonna offset you right now. I'm gonna go 3. I actually felt that maybe this was better than Afterlife, but then again, I don't remember Afterlife. Like Correct. I said, there were moments where they're like, "Oh, we did this or that happened." I'm like, I guess that happened.
And I really hope they don't beat the dead horse completely with a third here.
Well, did you sit through the end credit?
I saw the little marshmallow guy.
That's it, right? So they're just they steal a tractor trailer and that's it. It's like now we got Maximum Overdrive. Yeah. So I don't know. Obviously they lay the groundwork that there is a larger international, just like Men in Black, just like we can make this an entire franchise and we're fighting ghosts all over the world.
Yeah. I'm going to go 2 buckets. It's competently made. The special effects are good, but other than that, it just did not engage me and I was bored. And that's like the worst you can say about a movie.
Yeah. It just left you indifferent.
2 buckets out of 5. Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, well. Bummer.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
So now, did you see any special edition Ghostbuster popcorn container?
Yes, I did see they had one. They had 2. They had the embossed popcorn bucket, and then they also had the ghost trap, which is weird because I thought these were all like AMC exclusives. But my Regal had it. I didn't even bother. My friend Frank's like, "You're going to buy one?" I'm like, unless I can make $70 reselling it. No, it doesn't hold much. I don't even think it would hold enough popcorn to keep me through the trailer.
No, they make those as collector's items now.
Right. You don't even want popcorn in it.
Yeah.
You want a pristine. So I can sit on my couch. Listen, there was a point in my life that I would glom that up. I will tell you that I recently, and I've had this in my possession for years and years before they ever did anything like this. It was a mail away for in conjunction with Star Trek V. Do you remember in Star Trek V, they were in the Yosemite National Park at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
Spock, Bones, and McCoy. They had marshmallow extractor or a replicator. It was this little long tube thing, and it would make marshmallows so they could eat them by the campfire. and you could actually mail away for one of those. And
really?
You shove like marshmallows, like it holds like 3 marshmallows, and then you put the little slot and it slides them back out. I had to have that. And then it sat in a plastic bag in a closet for years and years. And then I sold it to somebody for like $40.
So if you don't buy that, then what are you going to buy at the concession stand today?
Well, so last week, the minute I realized that Slimer was in this, I really wanted to talk Ecto Cooler because do you remember Ecto Cooler?
Yeah, it was Hawaiian Punch, wasn't it?
It was High C.
Oh, it was High C.
It was High C, and it was one of their citrus, and they just rebranded it. But it was like neon antifreeze green.
I'm surprised we didn't see that commercial in the movie.
No, actually, it's funny. I'll show you later. I actually cleaned out some of my drawers, and I found an original coupon sheet from 1989 advertising Ecto Cooler.
Really?
But there was nothing fun to say about it other than the fact that it didn't even come out in conjunction with the movie. With the Ghostbusters 2, it came out in conjunction with the cartoon.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a year later or whatever. But there was nothing. So I had to go with the only other obvious food item in Ghostbusters, which are Stay Puft Marshmallows. So we're gonna just go talk. We're gonna talk marshmallows, and I'll tell you right now, it is not. How do you say it? How would you pronounce that?
Marshmallow. I would use like as in mellow yellow, not mallow. The way
it is a mallow. It is a mallow. Yeah. Marshmallow. So we've been saying it wrong all these years because I obviously say marshmallow as well.
Like, do you say library or library?
Oh no, I do add the R in library.
You do? Okay.
Oh, speaking of which, the other fun fact about the New York Public Library, you do know that is the tallest building in Manhattan. Yeah, it has the most stories. All right, on we go. So marshmallows.
That's up there with the dick fur joke in Spies Like Us.
What's a dick fur? To pee with. Oh, we should have just skipped Ghostbusters altogether. Just gone right to Spies Like Us. Ah, crap. Okay, so marshmallows. Interestingly enough, you just brought up a food item that went back, what? How many? Way back to like Egyptian time?
The Jordan almonds, yes.
The Jordan almonds. All right. Do you know that Gozer, the Gozerian himself, probably ate one of these back in the day because the Egyptians created marshmallows 4,000 years ago.
Really?
4,000 years we've had marshmallows. But they were not a tasty snack. They were medicinal.
As were Jordan almonds, yes.
Yes. I want to live back in those days where it's just like, you got a stomach ache? All right, eat some of this chocolate. It's like, so what they would do is it actually comes from a mallow plant that grows in marshes, hence the name. And they mixed it, they squeezed the sap out of this plant and they mixed it with nut and honey, which is another candy bar, nut and honey. But yeah, it wasn't candy. It was medicinal. It was used for sore throats, suppresses coughs, and healing wounds. So I find that interesting that, maybe in another 1,000 years, people will be eating Robitussin.
For healing wounds.
Yeah, now you just eat it. So yeah, I was fascinated that the 4,000 years ago, in 2000 BC, nobody really knows like what it looked like. It didn't probably look like what we do now because that was not created. The round marshmallow shape that we know was not really perfected until like 1948. But in the 1800s, there was a candy maker in France that combined the marshmallow sap with the egg white, sugar, and they whipped it by hand to create basically, what we know is a marshmallow now. And then they started selling it not only for medicinal purposes as well, also for sore throats, but people started eating it more like candy. So this became a huge hit, and doctors would basically prescribe this, which is great. All right, take 2 marshmallows and call me in the morning. But in the late 19th century, there was Ruckheim brothers they're credited with bringing this to the Americas. They were immigrants from Germany, and these are the two guys who also brought us Cracker Jack.
Oh.
And what they did, they thought Cracker Jack was like an easier sell. So in order to kind of drum up some interest in these marshmallows, they created a recipe book. You put them in hot cocoa, the little mini marshmallows, or you add them to ambrosia salad. These were part of their recipes like 150 years ago.
Wow.
And we still eat them like that today.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, some of their recipes don't really hold up. They had a marshmallow and mayonnaise salad, which does not sound good. But it was in 1927, a Girl Scout Handbook is the first publication to actually share a recipe where you roast a marshmallow combined with chocolate bars and graham crackers. So Girl Scouts created the s'mores. You can thank a Girl Scout next time you see her. And I'm not a big marshmallow fan. I used to, very fond memories of sitting around and toasting them, and who would catch theirs on fire and fling it halfway across the yard, and then somebody would get yelled at. But I always liked mine lightly toasted. Like you really had to kind of rotate it just to get that light burnt toast look on the outside. And then you could eat the outside crust and still have the gooey middle.
So I wonder how fluff came about. That's just like a...
That's interesting. I don't know. Because that really is just like...
That's like
deconstructed marshmallow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fluff fan either. I don't like that.
Is Stay Puft an actual marshmallow brand?
So let's go. So in 1948, this guy, Alex Dumock, who is the son of the founder of Dumock, who is the maker of campfire marshmallows, patented the actual extrusion process where they make them like in these tubes. And then they just get cut. And so that's, 1948 before we actually had marshmallows that look like what we buy today.
As we know them today. Okay.
But it wasn't until 2021 that Campfire Marshmallows actually created and released Stay Puft branded marshmallows in conjunction with the release of Afterlife.
So what did they look like before they were in the tubes? Were they just like cubes?
It looks like, it looked like what you would do is put them in... like you would put all the ingredients together in like a shallow pan and cook them like a brownie mix. And then cut them into cubes. Exactly that. You cut them into cubes. But 1948. So really not that long ago for something that, we all know and see immediately. Like you wouldn't eat them in any other shape. I mean, I guess Peeps. Is Peeps really just a marshmallow, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So Stay Puft was not an actual product. And that was funny because when I was doing research for this, people were like, well, didn't Stay Puft get mad that they misused the brand? I'm like, no, it's a made up product. It's
but it's so brilliant, like that. It's almost like the Mandela effect. People will remember Stay Puft.
I remember eating those when I was a kid. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. So it wasn't until Afterlife that somebody actually said, you know what, we should actually make these a product. Which is weird because, like I said, you had Ecto Cooler in the 80s in conjunction with the cartoon. Why would you not have made Stay Puft?
Right. Do you remember the High C, talking about Ecto Cooler, the High C Hawaiian Punch, the can? So it would come in a can and not in the plastic bottle like you get today.
You could actually get Ecto Cooler in the can, and I always thought it tasted better because it had that little bit of that tinny.
You needed that can opener. To get into that.
Yeah, you can't get into that.
And you had to. There was a trick to it. You had to open it on both sides.
Both sides. You got to create a flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise.
But as you said, it had that tin taste. I don't know if it was rust or.
Well, you would like to think that they would make those tins like aluminum so they don't rust on the inside.
Especially if you drank it right from the tin, like put it right to your mouth.
Yeah, then you're just like licking the metal. Yeah, it's like putting your tongue on a battery.
Especially if you had braces too.
Oh man, you just set shivers up my spine, and I never even had braces. So just to finish up my my marshmallow talk, in 2022, MarketWatch reported that on average Americans go through 90 million pounds of marshmallows each year. So that may be a couple Stay Puft Marshmallow Mans. So there you go, Marshmallows. I couldn't sustain a. Although we did kind of talk Ecto Cooler for a while, but yeah, we went with Stay Puft.
If you take a look at the outfits that Chevy and Dan are wearing through most of Spies Like Us, they look like a couple of marshmallows.
They do
as
look
well.
like marshmallows as well, especially when they're in the snow. You're gonna thank me later as they're dragging them through the desert.
And the very next scene, they're wearing.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Spies Like Us, 1985.
Which I probably haven't seen since 85 or 86.
I'm going to tell you that I am so familiar with this movie. I'm reciting lines and I'm like, I think some of the fun is gone out of it because I know every beat. And it's been a while since I've seen this, so I must have watched it a lot. It probably dropped on VHS in 87 or something, and somebody owned it or stole it from the library. Because to this day, if anybody, doctor, like there's so many repeatable lines in this movie that are just, you can't help yourself.
Back then, if you had a pretty much any movie, except for your Oscar bait stuff, obviously, but pretty much any movie had a theme song and then had a video on MTV.
Yeah.
So
usually with the stars, right? Going back to Ghostbusters.
So the theme song for this one is Paul McCartney, and I cannot think of this movie without hearing that song.
It's so funny because I forgot, like, it doesn't kick in until the end credits. And from what I read, it wasn't on any of his albums, right? It was only on
it
the
was
soundtrack.
like a lot for years. It was a lost song. It wasn't even on the soundtrack. The soundtrack only had the orchestral music. The only way that you could have bought the song is if you got the vinyl single when it came out. And for years after that, it was missing, out of print, until it showed up as a bonus track on one of his CD reissues in the 90s.
Huh.
Yeah. So
that's weird. I mean, Paul McCartney.
And it was a top 10. That was
right
until 2015. That was the last top 10 hit that he had in the US was Spies Like Us.
Wow. And people be like, wait, what? I don't remember that song at all.
If you look at any of his greatest hits compilations, it's not on any of them.
Not on there. I wonder if the studio owned it and just, that's weird. It's not, you're not talking like Paul Hardcastle or somebody that's kind of fallen out. It's Paul McCartney.
And, since we're talking about the song now, I actually read that Landis didn't like the song.
I did read that.
I'm like, what are you expecting? Like, write me Hey Jude for Spies Like Us.
Right. Come on, it's Paul McCartney. You couldn't do better. It fits with the damn movie.
It does. It's catchy.
Yeah. But I wonder if that's why it was relegated to the end credits and wasn't used in the movie itself. Because, what's funny is that, we brought this up before, which is, like movies that actually reference their title, and twice in there, I think Dan Aykroyd says, "You mean they're spies like us?" And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah."
Drink. Mm-hmm. It turned into a drinking game, but it's only twice. But you mentioned John Landis, and so I want to just tell this story. It's not a great story, but it's a story nonetheless. This is my brief brush with potential fame, because I never saw John Landis nor talked to him or anything. But when I was in college, I went to school out in Long Island, and for whatever reason, we used to, maybe because it was a campus and they would recruit, we would constantly get tickets to like advanced screenings of movies. And this was one of them. This looks like it was released in December of 85.
Yes.
So I was only in college for mere months. I went in August, September of 85. But we got tickets to an advanced screening. And all I knew was that it was directed by John Landis, the guy who, just as far as I know, directed American Werewolf in London. Coming off that, right? I mean, I don't think he made anything else in between.
Into the Night, I think, was his previous movie to this.
Yeah. So anyways, the rumor was that he was in attendance during the screening, but he might have shuffled in the back as the lights came down, kind of a thing, and then left before he just wanted to see it in front of an audience.
Oh, well, and this would have been after that Twilight Zone thing, too.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. You're right. It would have been. So anyway, there was rumors that he was in attendance, but I didn't, they didn't ask us for like focus groups or anything like that. And it doesn't differ, because I did read that there was an alternate ending that did not play well with focus groups. So they went back and reshot the end
where the world explodes.
Yes,
correct.
That does seem. It just right because the same thing happened with the Little Shop of Horrors, where in the original the plants take over the world.
It's like this horrific ending. Yeah,
it's like all these. They're like, all right, we'll just kill everybody at the end, and people are like, yeah, no.
Yeah, could that have been a surprise to them though? Like that test audiences didn't like that ending. Oh, we don't like it when the world blows up. Can you? Well,
that's like Fatal Attraction.
Yeah,
in the original, they had to go back and reshoot that too because it's like, no, you need something cathartic. You got to kill her. You can't have her end up in jail. You can't kill off the two main characters. Yeah. So I don't know what these directors were thinking back in the 80s, but so maybe that was the first time it had played. The new ending had played in front of an audience. I don't know.
And originally this was meant to be a Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi vehicle.
Yeah. So Chevy Chase was like second on. He's like, this guy died. So you want to do it with me?
Yeah. And then, speaking of Landis, he had already directed Blues Brothers with
yes.
Aykroyd.
Yeah. So that made perfect sense. Yeah. The two of them together. So, but no, unfortunately, he passed. So Chevy Chase stepped up. What's interesting though, so 85, Chevy Chase had two other movies in the theater because National Lampoon's European Vacation and Fletch were both released in 85 as well.
Yes, and this movie did better than either one of those, yet it was the only one that didn't get a sequel.
Was there ever any talk of a sequel?
I didn't see anything. I don't think that there was.
I will say the ending, now that I watch it, doesn't make any sense because they're negotiating with the soldiers that were guarding the missile. Literally,
well, the test audiences, they probably like that ending better than the
probably. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. But
or was it Risk or was it Stratego?
Oh yeah, I don't know the difference between the two.
But if Risk doesn't have trivia questions, so it wasn't really anything that they were playing.
No,
that was
I think
real,
they were kind of making up their own thing. So Elmer Bernstein actually did the score, but you don't get that Paul McCartney song until the very end credit.
Mm-hmm.
So we get this opening. I thought this opening was very Jurassic Park-ish, where you just get the rustling of the trees and you don't know what's coming through, and then a giant missile head pops out. Just like the beginning with the you think that there's a dinosaur in the trees at the beginning of Jurassic Park, and it turns out to be the truck.
Right.
Very reminiscent of that. It's like Spielberg.
This is an interesting beast to this movie because this happened in the 80s a lot, where it's a spoof, but it's not, because they do play the background story is kind of a straight spy story, but then they have these two goofy guys interjected in it. So they're taking themselves seriously to a point. So it's not like a completely off the wall.
Correct.
Movie.
Right.
So you have this
moments for sure. You're playing up, especially Chevy Chase, the comedic antics. It's like Trading Places. Dan Aykroyd was in that as well. Yeah.
And a lot of what I've read about it compares it to those Bob Hope, Bing Crosby road movies.
Yeah, to the point. Well, that's exactly. I mean, to the point where they actually have Bob Hope in the movie.
Yeah,
he literally comes in and says, we know what we're doing here. And this is like Ishtar did the same thing. Put these two knuckleheads in situations
but let's have the two actors not be comedians. I think that was part of the problem with Ishtar.
I think when I did watch Ishtar that I didn't hate it. By then, I think there was such, that it was just.
Yeah, I've never watched it. I just because
we should probably watch it. We should probably watch it just to seal the deal one way or the other on that one.
So the movie opens with this new Russian supersonic missile in the middle of Siberia or whatever it is, that the Russians are nefariously hiding out there. And then our spy satellites take a picture of it. So we decide that we have to send some people out there to do what? It's not really said, but okay, we're going to send two of our best agents, but we need two decoys. And we'll take all the attention away from our real agents.
But this makes absolutely no sense because you're sending your two decoys to the exact same location where your real spies are. You got to send them on the other side of the world. Why are they literally on the same train? They're like, oh, yeah, okay, well.
I think that they started that way, right? Where they sent them to the same place in the desert in Pakistan.
Right.
And then they weren't actually going to have the two decoys go across the border, but then it turns out they were going that way anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. So we're introduced to Chevy Chase, who is he's taken the Foreign Service Board.
Yeah, so both Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd's characters are like low-level government employees.
But Dan Aykroyd is like a super genius. You know, we talked about this where he's able to just roll off the tongue some of this ridiculous jargon. You know, you just believe everything he says. And he's being kept down there so he doesn't advance. This guy's using him for his knowledge and his brains. And not letting him out of the basement.
And meanwhile, Chase's character of Fitzhume doesn't want to advance. So he's very happy where he is, and he's kind of like strong-armed into taking this test. While Milbarge, who is Dan Aykroyd, wants to take the test, but his superior never told him about it until the day before.
Until that day of.
So they show up into the test together at the same time, and Chase's flair, he's got an eye patch, he's got a fake broken arm.
Yep.
So this is what you're living for in this movie, are these scenes of comedy that are interspersed into the general spy plot that's going on. And this is one of the highlights. You got Frank Oz as the moderator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, take the test. Waka waka. Ah. There's a litany of guest stars peppered throughout this movie that you wouldn't even realize unless you sat through. Ray Harryhausen is one of the scientists.
Is he one of the doctors in the doctor scene?
There is actually BB King.
Yeah.
Well,
Sam Raimi is in there before he was Sam Raimi.
Yep. Before, who was he before? Terry Gilliam is in there. So Frank Oz. And he shows up, I think, in a lot of these movies. You don't realize that he does more than stick his arm up a Muppet, but
you know exactly who this guy is the minute he opens his mouth.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
You know, depending on your frame of reference, you either hear Fozzie, you hear Yoda. But yeah, so this is a very broad comedic scene where Chase is doing everything he can to cheat. Like he's farting and he's like,
correct. Good old fart joke.
He's looking at, he's got like a mirror on the inside of his eye patch.
Yeah. It's just, it goes on forever too.
Yeah.
So, and he's trying to cheat from Dan Aykroyd. And of course, and they both get called out.
And this is like these two idiots. These are our decoys right here that got caught cheating on this test. That's the setup, is that they then send them to Pakistan and comedic adventures ensue.
Well, so you have the whole training montage, which I always loved. Great. They're getting thrown out of a plane and you know, he's screaming even more than Millie Bobby Brown hiding from a dragon. You know, the centrifuge where, you know, it spins around really fast, the G-force. And they come out and their faces are all contorted.
The radical vertical impact simulation.
Right? It literally just throws them off. Just tilts 90 degrees straight up.
And you see, like, as the camera doesn't cut away, you just see the two, like, human test dummies that are supposed to be them in the plane just
flopping around. Flamethrowers getting thrown at them. Matt Frewer, Max Headroom himself, is actually one of the soldiers in there as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Although I didn't see him. I did read that he's in there, so I can't remember the actor's name who plays Colonel Rambus, but he plays it.
Bernie Casey. Bernie Casey.
Oh, is that Bernie Casey?
He's the guy, the trainer, right?
Yeah, and he plays it straight up, doing everything in his power to break these two. Does he know that they're decoys? Does he care? I don't think he cares, even if he does know. Yeah. So, but none of this, like, if they're decoys, why would you have to go through this?
Yeah, I know. Why bother?
Are they fooling them into thinking that they're really doing top secret agent stuff? I don't know.
Actually, we're supposed to have them have real contacts when they first get to Pakistan, but then like the two Russian guys pick them up in the Jeep. Right. Which is a fun scene because Dan Aykroyd's character also knows a little bit of Russian. So he says something in Russian to them. They're like, da, da.
Yeah, da, da. Yeah. Run.
And then there's that second scene where they get thrown out of the plane in the container that says Acme Tomato on it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They go and they fall right into the village. And that's where they meet all the doctors. And that's where they meet Donna Dixon's character.
Doctor. Donna Dixon.
Who's married to Dan Aykroyd, but yet it's Chevy Chase's character is the one that's hitting on her.
Yeah, well,
and grabbing various parts of her anatomy.
Yeah, that boy, everything. There was no holding back on some of these 80 movies, right?
Yeah.
Just going right in for the kill.
But it's funny because now their cover is that they're doctors as well. So, then you can do the appendix surgery on this guy. We already have him prepped. He's already in the, and this is a fun scene too, because Aykroyd's like going under the table every time, reading how to do an appendectomy.
Yeah, I actually thought the other guy that she was with, Dr. Hadley, I thought that was Balak from Raiders of the Lost Ark, but that is not.
It is not? Okay.
No, but it looked like him.
But you know who is in this movie is Willard, the rat guy, Bruce Davison. So he's one of the government bad guys that sets them up on this whole mission.
I got you. They do say doctor 22 times, by the way.
22 times.
22 times, doctor.
That was not overkill, by the way. I think they just did it just enough to make it
just
funny.
Enough. It is funny. It's still funny, doctor. He does a similar thing in Vacation, where he goes in. I think it was the Christmas Vacation where he's in his boss's office, and it's his boss.
Yeah, Brian Doyle Murray, I think, right?
And all the guys are walking through, and he's like, "Sir, gentleman, asshole, ass kisser, jerk." Like each guy that comes along, he just adds to it. So, but yeah, so they literally bring in Bob Hope, and I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there now who don't even know who Bob Hope is.
Yeah, my son, that was lost on him,
right? And you're like, do you know who that is? Yeah, and it's like it's not even worth trying to explain how big that guy was. But yeah, Donna Dixon, man, she was coming off of Bosom Buddies. Good stuff.
They barely escape with their lives because the guy dies on the table, thankfully.
before you can even cut into him.
Yeah. So that's when they're tramping through the desert with these big winter coats on their backs, and then they finally make it to the Russian winterlands, and then they're dressed like the Marshmallows for pretty much the rest of the movie. And then it's revealed that Donna Dixon and Hadley is the guy that's with her.
Yeah.
They're not doctors either. They're spies like us. They're the real spies. They're the ones that they were decoying.
Yeah.
So they're the real two spies.
And when he finds out, he goes, "So she's a high-class intelligent piece?" It's like there's a lot of little innuendos. Speaking of which, so you're right. They hijack a camel and they're riding a camel. Have you ever ridden on a camel?
No. Have you?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. My grandfather used to take my brother and I to the Steuben County Fair, and you could ride on a camel. And these things are nasty animals. Like they're always making noises. And I remember vividly this camel spitting up like foam on my grandfather's shoulder. It's like just bleh. Like, oh, this is disgusting.
And Chevy tries to communicate with the camel.
Yes. Yeah. We get this cutaway back to the drive-in, which is where I guess the secret base is. And so this is where you get a lot of the cameos with B.B. King and Sam Raimi and some of these other guys, where the military, it has like their command center. WAMP,
they call it. WAMP.
Womp. So, but they're using those Ace Tomato Company trailers.
But in the meantime, they do cross the Russian border and they run back into Donna Dixon and Hadley, and they get kidnapped by the Russian border guards. At least it's Chevy Chase that does, because they're holding him and the others have to rescue him.
Gotta rescue.
And this is funny because in this little hut that they've got him, they have like Russian movie like Dr. Zhivago.
It was a little too on the nose. Reds, Dr. Zhivago. I'm like, wouldn't they be in Russian? Wouldn't they be? Yeah.
But another, the other stupid visual jokes is when, of course, the grenade gets thrown and Chevy Chase picks it up. Do I want this? No, you don't want that.
No, right. You got enough time to throw
and
he
just calmly lobs it back.
Right. But before that, when they still have him captive and they're threatening to call, he goes, "I'll cut off a finger." He goes, "Yours or mine?"
And then he's like, "Please don't start playing the Jeopardy theme."
Right. And
then so they finally do make their way to the missile with Donna Dixon, and then Hadley gets killed. So now it's just her. And they see that the missile is being guarded by the Russian guards, and like 2 of them are women and 2 of them are men, and they're playing an old soul song that pointedly is a song that the Blues Brothers covered on one of their albums.
That is pretty funny. I think there's 3 guys. Isn't there 3 guys and 2 women?
Yes, yeah. You're right. There's 5.
It doesn't matter, but yeah, they're rocking out in the middle of nowhere, guarding this missile, and then the party pooper Karen comes along and has to yell at them. You got a job to do. So where did they get? So all of a sudden they show up like aliens. Where do they get all this stuff from? All of a sudden they got like glowing lights and big umbrellas on their head and stuff. And I'm like, Was that in your bag as well? Like,
And so then they follow the instructions that are wired over to them by the US in their secret base. And they set like this code on the truck where the missile is, and then suddenly send it into space.
right. And so the whole point is to
Were they trying to they were trying to blow up the missile in space, right? That's what they wanted to do.
Yes,
with
I
it.
believe that is because it's a really neat reveal when the drive-in opens up and there's all these big lasers. There's two of these big giant laser guns, and they use the drive-in screen to reflect the beams up to hit. It's just like someone had made a reference that this was the Star Wars defense system, which Reagan set into motion. I don't think it ever materialized. I don't think we ever actually put this in space.
I don't know.
Star Wars defense, but I don't think George Lucas was happy that Reagan referred to it as the Star Wars Defense Initiative.
But it doesn't work in this movie because it misses the rocket.
I don't think it. Yeah.
So now it's on its way because we see it on a map above New York. So it's coming towards New York City. So now the government has missed it, and they're like, well, what was they didn't care that it was going to start World War III because
we'll just blame the Russians.
Yeah.
This is the 80s. There was no it was like, all right, well, that we don't have a backup plan. All that for naught.
Down on the ground, Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd just see the missile fly up. They don't know what they've done. They don't know the plan to shoot it down. They think that they've started World War III.
Yeah, well, based on trajectory, we got about 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go out with a bang?
Yeah, so they pair off with all the Russian guards and our heroes pair off.
I will
together.
say Dan Aykroyd got very lucky. He did, because two of the Russian men hooked up together.
Yes,
which is actually a funny reveal. It's like, did they shoot the MTV satellite? Or
when they missed when that whole laser missed the missile, they ended up hitting the MTV satellite.
Yes, which was funny.
So then Aykroyd's character realizes that I can destroy it from here. So they save the world. So they think that they've destroyed the world, but then they end up saving it. And then all the bad government guys get arrested that are down below the drive-in. So happy ending. And then we get that tacked on ending, I guess, because we didn't blow up the world as the original ending did.
If you watch us knowing that this end sequence was reshot, that scene after he realizes that he can just reprogram the missile. And then Chevy Chase asks him if he can borrow the tent. It's clearly on a stage. It's just a backdrop where everything else is shot on site. That missile had to have been a real working prop. And it's pretty impressive. It's a massive piece of hardware. Right. Like we were saying at the beginning. So originally, the world just blows up. Mm-hmm. It lands back down and starts World War III. Which is, I don't know where somebody thought that was a good idea, but no, instead we get this goofy tacked on delicate negotiations underway behind closed doors. And it's just, the boys are hanging out with their new girlfriends, and the rest of the group that was guarding the missile, and they're playing Stratego / Trivial Pursuit, which it makes absolutely no sense, but yeah, it's at least cute.
So this was a hit, like I said before. Cost $22 million to make. It made $77 million at the box office.
Okay.
So, and as you said, it was released at the very end of 1985 in December. So the song ended up in the top 10 in early 1986. According to McCartney, John Landis just rang him up and asked him if he could do a song for this movie. So Landis asked him to do it, and yet then he still goes on record saying he doesn't like the song.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It's like, you ungrateful mother.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're going to give me?
Yeah, yeah.
I did read that they used pretty much straight up the Lawrence of Arabia soundtrack when they were in the deserts.
This is just, classic, no political correctness whatsoever. You're not disappointed. You know what you're going to get with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, and you're not disappointed because it made me chuckle many times. It did.
Yeah, like I said, I think my level of familiarity with it takes away some of the because it is it's very slapstick, and there's goofy, he does the double take a lot, and facial goofiness.
But it did, and I think this says great things about it. Unlike our first film, it made me want to go back and watch other movies that I hadn't seen in a while from the 80s, like Three Amigos or maybe a Fletch or something.
Well, even
to that
Fletch.
effect.
Fletch is fantastic. My mother had the book series, and so I read a couple of the books after that movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's another one. That's fantastic Chevy Chase vehicle.
Yeah, and I even liked his old like Goldie Hawn comedies, like Seems Like Old Times with Charles Grodin.
No, he had that level of shtick that just, you either you think he's adorable and you go with it, or you find him annoying.
Oh, do you remember Modern Problems?
Yes. Oh, where the green goop and he ends up with, that, speaking of politically incorrect, I'm sure there's a lot going on in that movie. So, but these are all what passed for comedies.
Comparatively, this might even be getting more buckets from me than it would have been if we hadn't covered Ghostbusters. I'm giving this one 3.5.
Well, I'm going to match you on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I've seen it enough times that it kind of like, every beat of it. That's like, like Star Wars. I don't like watching Star Wars all the time because I know it inside out, know every freaking line. But it was fun to go back and rewatch this. And just, I will tell you, I got the Blu-ray from my library, and it was a double disc with Funny Farm, which I also saw in the theater with this girl. I had a crush on this girl in high school, and after I got out of college, we actually went to the movies together once. Nothing ever, so, but so we went to go see Funny Farm, and it wasn't that funny.
So how was the quality of Spies Like Us on Blu-ray?
It was okay. It was grainy. It wasn't like a high-end transfer of some of the stuff that we see on YouTube now. It was comparable to probably what
was it wide? Was it widescreen at least?
Yeah, it fit my screen. I had to actually, believe it or not, I had to tinker around with the settings on my television because it was defaulting to the square. It wasn't filling my whole screen, the whole thing.
Because my library only had the ancient DVD from like 1997, like when DVDs first came out. It didn't even have a menu.
Oh, it just launched.
It just launched into the movies, and it had that.
Honey,
message.
Get in here! It's starting.
It had that message in the beginning. This movie
pirating?
it's been formatted to fit your screen. So, it was not widescreen. It was not widescreen.
Yeah, I think back in the day they would just blow it out widthwise, and you would just lose whatever.
You would just lose whatever you were seeing on the sides in the theater. You lost it. Yeah, so, but still thought it was funny. It was a fun watch.
So I guess Dan Aykroyd. Remember when Chevy Chase had his talk show for like a blip in time?
Yep.
So Dan Aykroyd was on there once, and he was telling a story. When they were filming that they were being chased by a truck of paratroopers while in Morocco. I guess Aykroyd had taken a snapshot of this military unit, and they started pursuing them like a high-speed chase. And they had to go back to their hotel they abandoned their Jeep and then hid inside a van with curtains in the windows in order to escape this military group that was chasing after them. And so as a prank the next day, Aykroyd went in and he told Landis to inform Chase that Dan Aykroyd had actually been arrested, and that they expected them to be coming for him next. So you're out there filming in another country. Don't be taking pictures of military people.
Yeah, no. As soon as Chase heard that Aykroyd had been arrested, he's like, "Where's Donna Dixon?"
Right. I got to console her. She didn't really do much after this.
No.
Right? No, not really.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
her and Dan settled down. Are they still married?
I think that they are. Yeah.
Wow, good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of these Hollywood couples do not make it.
All right. So what else did we do?
This is why I think we need to just do an entire episode of what else did we do, because I will say I'm going to bring this up, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, but I know we both watched it, which is the new Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse.
Yes, I watched it in the depth of my sickness about a week ago.
You felt so crappy that you were like, "There's nothing that can make me feel worse, so I might as well."
Just start this thing up.
Okay.
Um,
Because this is
but
like
like the Godzilla, I'm just going to say this right out. Like the Roland Emmerich Godzilla, I don't know if they necessarily should have called this Roadhouse, because
I
only
agree with
the slightest ties to the original movie, in that the character's name is Dalton. And even the bar in the first one is called the Double Deuce. It's not
There is
called Roadhouse.
Yeah, did you see there was a Double Deuce next to the bookstore? It was
No,
like
I didn't.
It was a Double Deuce like laundromat or something.
Oh, okay.
You're right. I mean, it's set in the Florida Keys. He is super jacked though. He is incredibly ripped. And I read that he was like working out like 8-9 hours a day. But I don't know if I like his acting. I felt like he was like channeling Topher Grace. Like he just got a weird, like the whole point of the first one with Patrick Swayze is that, now don't forget, Jake Gyllenhaal and Patrick Swayze were in Donnie Darko together.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So Gyllenhaal's been doing this for a very long time. I do like him, but I don't know, like Patrick Swayze was like cool and very zen character. And this guy's not really. He's just kind of like, all right, well, you want me to come and.
When you've got an actor the level of Jake Gyllenhaal, I'm sure he wants some character development. So they had to give him a backstory about how he went off. He was like a former UFC fighter, and he went off on somebody that was supposed to be his friend in the octagon and killed him, which I guess is coming close to that storyline of Patrick Swayze ripping some guy's throat out.
Throat out, yeah. Yeah. But you don't have the Sam Elliott character in this, which is like this, there's a lot of you're right. It's not. And
you don't have the Ben Gazzara character either.
No, you're right.
That real scummy old man that owns the town, right? I think that they're trying to set up a sequel, because you have this the bad guy who is like this snivelly, kid.
He's a land baron that just wants the last remaining bar on this strip so he can put in a mega.
But he's trying to like prove his own name, because his dad is like this super criminal that's in jail. You only ever hear his dad on the phone, so you never see this.
No, you never see
character.
Right.
So I assume that they're trying to set up a sequel where this dad comes into play.
Now, if they do a sequel and the dad is Sam Elliott, now I'm in.
Yeah.
now you bring me in. But there's a couple nice fight sequences.
There are, the fight sequences are great.
But the fact that it takes place in the Florida Keys is kind of weird. So you get like this, there's a boat chases and there's a lot of water stuff going on as well. And
of course you've got that Conor McGregor guy who seems like he is indestructible, by the way. I'm like, how is Jake? Right. You're as a viewer, like, how is anybody going to beat this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. He was on the Smartless podcast, and he was talking about like they filmed those fight sequences, the flashbacks, in front of a real UFC audience. They basically had to go in at the end. Nobody knew that they were really filming it. He just went in there and they did their thing or whatever, 7-12 minutes, however long they had.
Made pretend that Jake Gyllenhaal has killed a guy in the octagon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, but the audience was unaware of what was really going on. So, but I mean, a lot of people are like, well, Connor, he can't act. And I'm like, well, all these guys want to be actors now. The Rock wasn't that great when he first started. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he did what he could with that role. I thought it was great.
And so I thought it weird as well, because Dalton does kill at least one or two guys in this movie. Because remember, he breaks that one guy's throat and he says, you can't breathe anymore. And he throws him in the pool. Right. He does it to that low-level guy, but yet he doesn't kill Conor McGregor. He stabs him everywhere, but in the vitals.
Yeah, just trying to swat you away, man.
Yeah, and I know you're going to come back and kill me, but I'm still going to let you.
Correct, yeah. My wife was glued, of course. Some eye candy going on there.
I would have liked it better if they just didn't call it Roadhouse. I thought it was a serviceable action movie, in its own right.
Yeah, because that is, I mean, bringing in somebody to protect your, that trope is around. There's numerous other movies that have used that, so yeah, you could have easily, if they called it something else, somebody would be like, well, this is just Roadhouse. I guess they just leaned into it. That dropped on, was that Netflix?
It was,
I think the director. Prime. On Prime, yeah. The director was not too happy because he was told it was going to get a theatrical release. But I know quite a few people who watched it.
Yeah.
So, entertaining. But I do want to bring up one other show. I just binge watched all 8 episodes on Netflix. 3 Body Problem.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this show at all? It's based on a book, Japanese writer, I believe.
No, I pulled it up, but the description was so vague.
It's hard to describe. It takes you about 2.5 episodes to even find out what the title implies. There's a lot of really weird. I don't even want to give too much away. But there's a lot of like virtual reality headsets, maybe aliens, maybe covert government agendas. You think it's going a certain way, and all of a sudden it becomes something else. And you got all these friends, these side characters that become Sam Tarly from Game of Thrones. He's in there, that actor, because it's Benioff and Weiss, the 2 guys that spearheaded Game of Thrones,
right?
Basically produced and adapted this. So it's I mean, by the time episode 5 rolls around, it is just bat crazy, and you're just like, wow. But you get to the end and you're like, all right, well, where do we go from here? Because it's unlike anything I have ever seen on television.
Really?
So I've got 2 or 3 people I've talked to about it. My buddy Joe started watching it, and he's already texted me going, all right, I'm in episode 3, and what about this? And I'm like, well, just keep watching. I
watched a couple of Nicolas Cage movies as they appear. He's got so many of them, they're just like dropping now on various services.
Like new movies?
New movies, yeah.
Really?
Yep, I watched one called The Retirement Plan, where he plays like a beach bum kind of a guy who used to be a strong arm. I don't even remember what he was.
And was he asked to go and protect the bar from bikers?
He was not, but his daughter that he's been estranged from, and his granddaughter is in trouble with some crime family, so he's got to come out of retirement to protect them.
Hence the title.
Yes. So, and then I watched Dream Scenario.
Ooh.
Which is very bizarre. The retirement plan was more like Cage going into action hero territory where he's not like the most comfortable. But Dream Scenario was like where he's like firmly in his very bizarre surroundings.
Okay.
Where he plays somebody that inexplicably is showing up in people's dreams across the world.
Oh, yes. I do remember seeing this trailer.
Yeah. As like a passive kind of like just kind of walking through like, yeah, I was being attacked and you just sat there and watched and didn't do anything, in my dream. It's very bizarre, but it is interesting. It held me until the end.
All right. Interesting. Dream Scenario.
Scenario. It's on Max. And Retirement Plan is on Hulu. So there you have it. So because of my illness, we would have done Ghostbusters last week, and we would have been recording Godzilla X Kong times Kong. How do you want to say it?
I don't even know. Godzilla Kong.
And Kong. So we're gonna have to put that back a week. But I haven't seen it yet. You probably haven't either, right?
I'm going as soon as we get off this call.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm not gonna see it probably till later in the week.
2:45 we have a screening.
Okay. The trailer came on before Ghostbusters, and I just, again, closed my eyes. I'm like, I don't want to see any of it.
Oh, speaking, did you see Beetlejuice trailer?
No.
It's really just a teaser.
Is it?
Oh,
really?
no? Oh,
I did not see it. I just saw they only played before Ghostbusters only 2 trailers, so I only saw and I didn't see it. I heard it, the Godzilla and Kong. And then the conquest of the battle of beneath the planet of the apes, and which I just found funny now because watching the trailer, and the setup is that one of the apes, I don't know what character it is, says we shouldn't be hunting humans. Like he's a human sympathizer.
Oh boy.
So, and I'm just picturing him like at a public forum in Ape Village saying, we should not be hunting humans, and all the apes going, ooh. All simultaneously, like do
another woke one.
Do the sad, curious George. But that's how that's how they talked, like Scooby Doo in the trailer. We should not be hunting humans.
I think that's how Dr. Zayas talked back in the day.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not excited about that whatsoever. The
No,
Planet
you said
no.
you said you were not a big fan of this
No.
reboot. And,
No,
I
unless
dig it.
they bring it full circle to Taylor, that's what's going to get me
Well,
on.
I think that they were they were teasing that in the first one with James Franco. There was a lot of new, and it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think they did. There's like news articles about the spaceship going up and the launch team. So they may very well. How are you going to do that? And the whole point of that movie was kicker at the end.
Well, yeah, they obviously that surprise has been spoiled since 1968.
Right, correct.
So the human in this movie, the smart girl, they don't establish it in the trailer. Maybe she's on that ship. Who knows? I don't know.
Nova. Is there Nova? What if it's just Mark Wahlberg? I would be so pissed.
Yeah.
I would throw.
I would be like in the theater.
So yeah, Godzilla X Kong.
I wonder if King Kong says that at any point during Godzilla X Kong.
I hope so. I think well, I'm not going to give it away. There's other characters, so I just want to see that damn Titan. I got to see that mammoth, and we better
the woolly mammoth. Yeah,
we better get some Titan.
And they better call it Wooly. That's got to be its name. Yeah.
I hope they call him Snuffleupagus. But yeah, that's we're gonna pair this up with another fun monster buddy comedy.
War of the Gargantuas.
This is
this was always one of my favorites because it was these outfits were very like human form fitting,
yes.
so they could really go to town with the fight.
Yeah, speaking of UFC fighting,
yeah,
these guys go at it. There's a lot of monster on monster action in that.
War of the Gargantuas. Now, I wonder what versions are going to be, because I have the DVD that has, I believe it has the Japanese version as well as the American dub. So I wonder what's available on streaming.
I guess we'll have to find out.
Because I have the classic media disc that is like a double feature with Rodan. So
nice.
that's the disc I have, and we'll talk about its tenuous ties to Frankenstein Conquers the World. It's on Tubi. It says.
Oh, okay.
It's watch now on Tubi, so that's where you can see it.
Sorry. IMDb 3.5 thousand reviews, 6.2 out of 10. Well, I think we're going to raise that up. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. It may not be the best copy, but it is there. So,
yeah.
All right. I don't care. That's fine.
All right.
Excited.
So, Godzilla X Kong and War of the Gargantuas next time.
Yeah. All right. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Me too.
Sorry you had to sit through this. Usually we say go see for yourself. Don't listen to us.
Do yourself a favor and listen to us this time.
Go rent Spies Like Us instead.
Yeah.
Dr. Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, until next time, Doctor.
Yes, Doctor.
We can just keep going.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Bye. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. James. Doctor.